And now turning to our next segment, advertising's superpower. 2 years on from the publication of Ad Pays 8, a report by the industry think tank Credos on UK advertising's social contribution. This session, hosted by Nicola Kemp of Creative Brief and featuring Zaid Al-Kassab, CMO and Inclusion and Diversity Director at Channel 4, Sharon Bryan, Head of Partnerships at the National Centre for Domestic Violence, and Alessandro Manfredi, Executive Vice President at Dove, will look at the enduring power of advertising to enact and drive positive social change. I do hope you enjoy it.
Good morning and welcome to our session on advertising superpower. I'm Nicola Kemp, Editorial Director at Creative Brief. In January 2020, Credos, advertising think tank, published Ad Pays 8, which looked for the very first time at UK advertising's social contribution. The report was prescient in many ways, published just weeks before the first lockdown. It highlighted that 46% of the public believed advertising has a positive impact on society, and 42% believe advertising can make the world a better place. Since then, we've seen advertising help the national and international response to the COVID-19 pandemic, with the UK government becoming the UK's #1 advertiser, delivering vital health public messaging. Many brands and their agencies and media partners supported that messaging and have helped unlock the economy on more than one occasion. The latest public trust data from Credos shows that the social contribution of advertising is a significant driver of trust, underlining how making a positive social contribution is an opportunity for the industry to do more on the big issues. Now, we face many different issues as a society. So can the work of the advertising industry really help to tackle these and bring about positive change? Today, we're going to look at 3 fantastic campaigns that will hopefully illustrate just this. So I'm delighted to be joined today by our 3 fantastic speakers: Zaid Al-Kassab, CMO and Inclusion and Diversity Director at Channel 4, Sharon Bryan, Head of Partnerships at the National Centre for Domestic Violence, and Alessandro Manfredi, Executive Vice President at Dove. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're going to kick off with a brilliant campaign. So last summer, Channel 4 launched Superhuman to promote its coverage of the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. And it was written in partnership with 20 incredible athletes, and it was inspired by their real-life experiences. Now, the previous campaigns have won an absolute host of awards, from Cannes Lion, D&AD, the Clios, to Thinkbox's award for TV creativity. So Zaid, thank you so much for joining us. So this was the 3rd iteration of the Superhumans campaign that began in 2012. Can you tell us a bit about the evolution of the campaign and what was different about this latest film?
Yes, of course. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, as you said, this was actually our difficult 3rd album after 2012 and 2016. Back in London 2012, parasport wasn't really in the nation's consciousness at all. I mean, we took a route which was quite bombastic, in your face, so that people would sit up and listen, with the Superhumans concept, and also taking a dig at the Olympics with the line, "Thanks for the warm-up." But if you roll on 9 years, then the landscape in terms of disability and the conversation had really changed. We work with disability charities and with disabled people, and we heard from them that although they loved the campaigns of the past, they were really pleased about the focus Channel 4 had brought to discussions about disability. They were not superhumans. They're just normal people living their lives like everyone else. And we heard from the athletes themselves that they didn't think of themselves as superhuman, at least not as superheroes. They were just ridiculously dedicated athletes going through plenty of ups and downs in order to reach the heights of being in the Paralympics. So we deliberately shifted the focus to the human part of Superhuman, and hopefully what we did was show those aspects in the film really well. Of course, if you reach the Paralympics, I mean, you're still superhuman in some sense, but we hope we did it with the Channel 4 glint in our eye and the humour that we normally have.
Thank you so much for sharing about the campaign. I think that lived experience really comes to life. But I'm going to stop talking about it and we're going to watch it now so we can see it.
What's next for Kadina Cox? She's already under huge pressure.
Now she's set her sights on Tokyo.
She's doing again.
So you wanna be a boxer in a golden ring? Can you punch like a southbound freight train? Tell me just one thing. Can you move in a world like a hummingbird swing if you need to? Ooh, that's fast. Can you bob, can you weave, can you fake, can deceive when you need to? Or you might as well quit if you haven't got it. So you wanna be a boxer? Can you pass the test? I can tell that you got it in you. I've trained the best. When you work and you sweat in your bed, let you train to a boxer. Then you lose your mind when you find that your boy has a glass jaw. So you might as well quit if you haven't got it. Put him in the ring, Joe, look at what we found. We can use the gun, Joe, pushing him around. We'll show him the ropes and destroy his hopes. Put him in the ring, Joe, he's the guy in We'll put him to bed, then he'll call it quits for sure, Joe.
For fuck's sake.
So you wanna be a boxer, wanna be the champ. There's a golden boy inside you, not a punched out tramp. If you listen and you learn, there's an honor you can
This
earn.
year's
and defend
Paralympics
it.
have been postponed.
When you do see the crown, you're a king, not a clown, a contender.
Well, you might as well quit.
If you haven't got it,
But you might as well quit.
if you haven't got it, in the ring, show something in the hand. Let me have the swing, Joe, get what goes around. Get quite swift, if you haven't got it, get the drift. Put him in the ring, Joe, chicken in the car. Let me have a win, Joe, tear him apart. Chicken will cross. Might as well quit if you haven't got it.
Such a great campaign, and it's got such a great energy. And Zaid, I'd love to get your view. I mean, do you feel a responsibility when it comes to continuing to challenge attitudes and give a voice to those with disabilities? What's coming next with this campaign?
Yeah, we do. We measure society's attitudes to disability. We've done that since before London 2012. So we know, for example, that 83% of people think that our coverage of the Games improves people's perception of disability. We know that 77% of people say that covering the Paralympics makes them think differently about the challenges faced by disabled people in Britain. And so that's an important part of it for us. Channel 4 was created to drive change through entertainment, to represent the diversity of modern Britain. That is our purpose. That's what we're here to do in the public service landscape. And we've got a long history of doing that. So the Paralympics is just one example. And if you look at some of the recent things we've done, such as Rosie Jones' Trip Hazard, these are examples of putting authentic disabled talent on air. And, you know, that's an important part of what we're here for. The Last Leg, for example, has run for 10 years now. It's one of our most popular shows, and it deals with disability in a humorous, accessible way. And, you know, Hollyoaks, our long-running soap, has had 9 disabled cast members, and Johnny Peacock was even in it during the Paralympics. So, yeah, we do a lot, and we're currently preparing for the Winter Paralympic Games in Beijing. They're very shortly coming to our screens. And, you know, on top of that, as a big broadcaster and commissioner of content, we've launched new disability guidelines for the production of TV shows, it's about access for and championing of disabled talent. So, you know, that's always been at the core of Channel 4. Broadly speaking, that whole area of representation and diversity is the core of Channel 4, and we were very proud that many years ago we screened the first lesbian kiss, made the first big gay drama, Queer as Folk. We're still doing that, you know, even last year with It's a Sin, which was a drama about the LGBTQ plus community. And in other areas like ethnicity, we did our Black to Front project last year, which is about increasing representation of black people on screen and behind the camera. So, yeah, purpose is at the heart of what we do. And I guess I'd say it only really works if it's linked to your business objectives, if it's genuine, and if it's kind of the heart of your culture. But thankfully, at Channel 4, that's something that's special about us.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's such a brilliant example of the way that diversity drives creativity and the role for not just for raising awareness, but for taking action. It's really, really great campaign. So thank you for sharing. So I'd love to turn to our next campaign. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this campaign. It's an incredibly compelling piece of work. It's called Abusers Always Work From Home. And Marketing Week actually voted it the best campaign of 2020. Now, the ad brought into sharp focus how lockdown was putting victims of domestic violence at even greater risk. And during the spring 2020 lockdown, domestic abuse rose by 49%. And at the same time as refuges shut down nationwide. So let's take a look at that campaign.
Mum and Dad.
There's a silent threat in our homes.
Right, can you come and help me, please?
1, 2, 3, 4.
You know what about? What are you doing? I'm just...
Millions affected.
Come on, what's all this mess?
Thousands hospitalised. Too many lost.
He's filming. I'm okay, sweetie. Please stop filming on me. Not just at the minute, bud.
Sharon, thank you so much for being here today. This is such an incredibly powerful film. Could you tell us a bit about the concept for the campaign and the results that you've seen from it?
Yes, thank you for asking me here. Well, whilst the lockdown and working from home certainly helped halt the spread of coronavirus, it put domestic abuse victims' lives in danger. Home really isn't a safe place for these people. Abusers Always Work From Home was made free of charge in April 2020 by creative agency Wunderman Thompson UK, and the actress Vicky McClure narrated the film. We NCDV commissioned the film to draw attention to domestic abuse, which did, as you said, spread by almost 50% above the norm during the spring lockdown. The film was shot on a smartphone, and as we've seen, starts off showing a very happy family, phoning relatives on video call, cheering on the NHS, playing together. But then comes the subtle telltale signs of something far more sinister. And finally, we see the reveal of the mother and her child forced to hide from the now violent and abusive partner and father. And what we see in the film may feel shocking to a lot of people, but sadly, this is the day-to-day reality of a victim's life. And where usually one or the other or both of the couple go out to work, the victim's given a reprieve from the abuse. But what we found was that when the country went into lockdown, couples were stuck together with no way of seeking support from anyone else. And often domestic abuse in a relationship will be disclosed for the first time by the children of the family at school. But of course, this couldn't happen either because children weren't at school. So the film has won many awards and accolades since, and we feel that part of the success of the film online comes from the support that it's had offline. Wyndham and Thompson called in favours from national media partners such as JC&Co, Clear Channel and Blow Up, who also donated giant outdoor sites for free or for a very nominal rate, and the Stylist magazine adopted it as a campaign of their own. And although Wyndham and Thompson couldn't conduct normal casting sessions because of the lockdown restrictions, they managed to find a family where both parents were actors, professional actors who would be able to work safely together. And there were at times some ingenuity used, such as blankets were used to get the sound quality right, and all the post-production work was carried out in the editors' homes. And the campaign led to a 25% increase in calls to the National Centre for Domestic Violence, not as you may expect whilst the country was in lockdown, as it was just too dangerous to reach out for help at that time, but when the restrictions started to be lifted, and that's when we saw a sudden increase in referrals. And our mission is to make domestic abuse socially unacceptable. So the success of the campaign is measured by the number of people who saw the campaign. And one way of measuring that is social media. And we know we achieved 22 million views and still counting. And that's how we know that the campaign has been really very successful.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's such an incredible example of creativity under constraint. And all the partners getting involved as well. And the more recent campaign, the big cover-up, which is still running now. In fact, I actually saw it in real life. I'm still at the stage where it's exciting when you see an actual billboard in real life. A fantastic campaign, which it features a series of partially covered up billboards, partially hidden films and blocked social media channels to really promote the NCDV victim lines. And the creative is accompanied by text such as, the garage door fell on me or I fell over, to sort of bring to life those excuses people give to hide abuse. So could you tell us a bit about this campaign element and how effective it's been?
Yeah, the Big Cover Up campaign is really quite new for us. So we launched this on the 25th of November last year, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Again, Wyndham and Thompson UK kindly offered their services free of charge to help us with it. It's really too early to say how effective it's been, but we plan to run this campaign throughout 2022. The concept behind it is that we want to expose the sheer scale of unreported domestic abuse in England and Wales. And we know that 80% of incidents of domestic abuse go unreported. So the idea is that we dramatically visualise how the full picture of domestic abuse is literally 80% greater than we're aware of. So it's ultimately a clever use of media to deliver a hard-hitting message, because there are all sorts of reasons for women and men for not coming forward, ranging from love to fear, denial, shame, threats. Even though NCDV take around 7,000 referrals every month for help in getting civil court orders for protection, we know we only ever see a small part of the full picture. And of those 7,000 people, many will not have ever gone to the police. So the Big Cover Up it's appeared so far on giant outdoor sites in London and is also currently on escalators at King's Cross Station in London. And JC&Co is again kindly supporting the campaign for the whole of 2022 by featuring the images on sites across the country, as well as NCDV's official supporters who are supporting us by sharing the images across their social media platforms. So we're in no doubt that the campaign will increase awareness of the help that we can give to victims and survivors of domestic abuse.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sharon. It's such a powerful campaign, and it's great to hear of all the partners like Wyndham and Thompson and JC&Co supporting the campaign over time, because it's such a vital issue. So thank you. And now, last but no means least, I've got another truly, truly remarkable campaign, which Dove ran in April 2020. Courage is Beautiful. This too has won a raft of industry awards, and the campaign was developed as a tribute to the strength of medical workers. And it featured a series of incredibly beautiful photos of real people, not actors, but with marks on their faces caused by the non-stop usage of PPE. Now, it wasn't just an ad campaign. Dove donated over £5 million worth of Dove products and protective equipment to government and NGO initiatives across the world, including to frontline healthcare staff and hospitals. So let's watch that film. Hi, Alessandro. Thanks so much for joining us today. I mean, this campaign is I don't want to say iconic, but it feels like a very iconic piece of work. I mean, it's very different to anything Dove has created before. Could you tell us a bit about the making of the film and the messaging?
Yes. So, look, first of all, yeah, it's very different also because of the exceptional times. You know, if you rewind to March 2020, this was the first wave of the pandemics, and we were in the middle of a massive crisis everywhere. Everybody was very scared, very traumatized, and you know, we as marketeers, we were looking at the months and the weeks ahead, and we look at our assets, our communication plans, and everything really looked irrelevant, out of touch. Even, you know, purposeful campaigns on body confidence, on real beauty. So the first thing we did was to put into the drawer most of the communication assets and redirecting all our media investment into educating people about washing hands. We did a sort of a public announcement and explaining to people to wash hands. We are a soap at the end. We are a beauty brand, but our biggest actually product is a soap. And we said, you know, wash your hands with any soap, not just Dove, because it's okay against bacteria. And we called this campaign together with different influencers, Wash to Care, and we tried to make it as entertaining as possible. In the meantime, we started donating, as you said, products to different organizations and charities, hospitals, to support nurses, doctors, paramedics. And as you said, we donated more than £5 million. But at the same time, and now we are in the last week of March, let's say, we said, okay, but how can we show more empathy beyond donating products? And we saw through our agency, Ogilvy, that there were many healthcare workers that were posting pictures of their exhausted faces and just to tell people stay home and stay safe. And somebody at our agency, you know, showed us some of this picture, and in a presentation, you know, we all realized this is beauty today. This is really beauty. The courage of these people is the epitome of beauty, and you know, we are about widening the definition of beauty. So we said we should actually bring this to life. We took less than a week to do that. We went on air in early April, and actually it was quite a record for us, because usually we take 6 months to a year for a big campaign, and it just took a week because the idea was so simple and so topical, and actually the time we took was more not for developing the communication, which was there since day one, but really to ensure that every market that went to air need to have done and organize enough donations, because one of the principles we have since a bit is whatever we do cannot be just the brand say. You need the brand do. You need to first to take action to solve a problem and then talk about it, and that's how it happened.
It's such a fascinating insight to pivoting such a huge brand at such speed. I mean, what was the reaction from the public? I mean, what results did you see?
So as you can imagine, we were overwhelmed by the results, I have to say. I was actually a bit concerned because in this situation, you could be seen as maybe over-exploitative. You could always have a percentage of people that are cynical. And we were really impressed by having basically 100% positive sentiment. And I attribute that to the fact that this was quite a topical thing where really people felt very grateful for people being grateful actually to the health workers, and also probably to the authenticity of what we did, in the sense that, we ensured that every market that went on air with this communication really had done the work of doing the donations, on ensuring to organize the logistics of the donations, and actually ensuring also that we were real, we were true to the pictures of these workers. So yeah, very good results. Also, we were impressed by actually the return of investment, because as you can imagine, we didn't want to spend a lot of money, and no more definitely, absolutely, than what we spent actually in the donation. So because it would have not been authentic. So we didn't spend a lot on this campaign at all. But we got a great return in terms of talkability and all the measures of brand salience, brand meaningfulness, and so on.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I love that you mentioned cynicism, because I think all of these three campaigns, they really show that creativity can break through that cynicism. And all of these campaigns have had a really positive impact on society. And as I was watching them, I was thinking about all the headlines we're reading at the moment about the Great Resignation, and thinking this is the kind of work that people get into the industry to create. And that's just such an interesting topic for discussion. So with that inspiration in mind, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear a bit about the campaigns that are inspiring you. So Zayed, could you give an example of another recent campaign that you admire for its social contribution?
Well, Alessandro's discussion of that lovely Dove work in the early days of the pandemic puts me in mind of something we did. So if you'll forgive me, a Channel 4 example is that the government came to us in those early days and said that they'd recognised in the data a reluctance of young men in particular to stay at home and obey the lockdown rules. And could we do anything about it? Because we have really good reach with that audience. And we created a campaign which was called We Need Your Butt, a very patriotic campaign about saving the country by sitting your ass down on the sofa. And that's just a lovely example of how you can be reactive and still on brand and actually do some good at the same time. You're probably going to press me for a non-Channel 4 example. So if I can be really generous to one of my competitors, I do think ITV's Britain Get Talking initiative that gives a real boost to people talking about mental health. It is really excellent. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a great sort of mass market mainstream cutting through on a subject that has a lot of silence around it. Thank you so much for that example. And Sharon, I'd love to get your view. What are you admiring in the work right now?
I think that the same as the Britain Get Talking campaign is really important, and not so far removed really from what we do at NCDV, because obviously domestic abuse can really damage someone's mental health. So it's really important to speak and to tell someone whatever you're experiencing, that you are experiencing that. So I think that's probably the same for me as well.
Yeah, so it's a great campaign. It deserves the double choice. And Alessandro, could I ask you the same question? What's inspiring you right now?
Yeah, I'm a big admirer of the work done in the area of menopause and periods by body form with the campaign Warm Stories. It's a multi-year campaign, a complete repositioning of the brand to destigmatize subjects like women periods or menopause. And I find it very powerful because it's extremely insightful. As a marketeer, I admire that. And it's very courageous because it really changed the language in the category, and of course it's purposeful at the same time. And I always look for proofs that you can make a positive impact to society and at the same time have commercial success. Why not? And there are many cases, and cheer up when these happen.
That's such a great example. I think that AMV, BBDO and Essity partnership has really changed the cultural narrative surrounding women's bodies, which is such a wonderful thing to see. And the 3 campaigns that you have shared today are also campaigns that are really contributing not just incredibly to your brands and your marketing goals, but also to some bigger societal issues. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and puncturing that cynicism that perhaps we sometimes have when it comes to advertising social contribution. So thank you all.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.